and the many dwarfettes. All right. Once upon a time, in a land not too far away, there lived a little girl named Snow White. And poor Snow White, she was meant to just clean all day long. She just looked so sad. Well, one day, just like every other day, her evil stepmother looked into the mirror and she said, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?"
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?
And the mirror answered, as she always did, "You are my queen." And the queen let out a beautiful laugh. Well, just then, her two daughters walked in, Anastasia and Drusilla, and they said, "Mother!
Mother!
We need new dresses for the ball."
We need new dresses for the ball.
And the evil queen said, "Very well, girls."
Very well, girls.
And she whipped out a credit card, gave it to them, and said, "Have fun."
Have fun.
They said, "Thank you, Mother."
Thank you, Mother.
They stuck their tongues out at Snow White, and off they went. They were not nice. So then, the evil queen turned back to her mirror, and she said, "Oh, mirror, mirror on the wall, tell me again who's the fairest of them all."
Oh, mirror, mirror on the wall, tell me again who's the fairest of them all.
And the mirror once again said, "You are my queen."
You are my queen.
And off she went up to her room. Well, a few days later, it happened to be Snow White's 16th birthday, and she grew to be such a beautiful young lady, but she was still really sad. And she sighed, and she said, "Happy birthday to me." It's really sad. So just then, the queen came back to her mirror, and she said, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?"
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?
And before the mirror could answer, in came her two nasty daughters again. And they said, "Hello, Mother."
Hello, Mother.
"We need jewelry and shoes."
We need jewelry and shoes.
And she said, "Very well, girls."
Very well, girls.
She whipped out another credit card, gave it to them, and said, "Have fun."
Have fun.
They said, "Thanks, Mother."
Thanks, Mother.
And they made a nasty face to Snow White. And off they went. And so the queen said, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, tell me who is the fairest of them all."
Mirror, mirror on the wall, tell me who's the fairest of them all.
This time, the mirror said, "Snow White is now the fairest."
Snow White is now the fairest.
And the queen said, "What?
What?
You've got to be kidding me."
You've got to be kidding me.
And she stomped her foot. She was so mad. She didn't know what to do. She said, "Yo, Hunts Lady!"
Yo, Hunts Lady.
And the Hunts Lady came down. She said, "Yes, Your Majesty."
Yes, Your Majesty.
She said, the queen said, "Take this box,
Take this box.
take Snow White
Take Snow White.
into the forest,
Into the forest.
and put her heart in that box."
And put her heart in that box.
She was evil, I'm telling you. She said, "Very well, Your Majesty."
Very well, Your Majesty.
The queen and the mirror stomped off. And the Hunts Lady went over to Snow White. She helped her up, and she led her into the woods, all the way around. And just then, Snow White saw some flowers, and she said, "Oh, may I pick them?" And she said, "Sure."
Sure.
So Snow White bent down, and just as she did, the Hunts Lady did what she didn't want to do. She grabbed out her dagger, and she was going to get Snow White, and Snow White turned around and screamed. And the Hunts Lady said, "Oh, Snow White,
Oh, Snow White.
you're so beautiful.
You're so beautiful.
I cannot kill you.
I cannot kill you.
Run deep into the forest.
Run deep into the forest.
Never return."
Never
And
return.
so off Snow White went. Well, then the Hunts Lady said, "Now what am I going to do?"
Now what am I going to do?
Well, just as it happened, bad day for the pig, good day for the Hunts Lady, a wild pig ran by, and so the Hunts Lady grabbed it, took out its heart, put it in the box, and went home. Gross. Disgusting. So, just then, the evil queen was back at her castle. She was admiring herself in the mirror, just looking at herself, seeing how beautiful she was, knowing that Snow White was no longer a concern, and in walked the Hunts Lady. And the queen said, "Is that the heart of Snow White?"
Is that the heart of Snow White?
And the Hunts Lady said, "Yes, it is, Your Majesty."
Yes, it is, Your
And
Majesty.
she She gave her the fake heart, walked away, and the queen let out an evil laugh. And she said, "Now, Magic Mirror, who's the fairest of them all?"
Now, Magic Mirror, who's the fairest of them all?
She said, "Snow White is still the fairest."
He's still the fairest.
And the queen was so mad that she had been tricked. She couldn't even believe it. She stopped her feet, she crossed her arms, and she stormed up to her room to think of another evil plan. Just then, Snow White was walking around the forest. She was so sad. She didn't know what to do. And she came upon a little girl in a red cape. And the little girl said, "Hi!
Hi.
I'm Red Riding Hood."
I'm Red Riding Hood.
And Snow White said, "I'm Snow White.
I'm Snow White.
I'm lost. I have no place to go." And Red Riding Hood said, "I think there's a cottage in the woods.
I think there's a cottage in the woods.
But be careful.
But be careful.
The wolves in this area are tricky.
The wolves in this area are tricky.
Gotta go."
Gotta go.
And off she went. Snow White said, "Okay." She kept walking. And then she came upon another little girl. And she said, "Hi.
Hi.
I'm Goldilocks.
I'm Goldilocks.
I'm starving."
I'm starving.
And Snow White said, "I'm Snow White. I have no place to stay." And Goldilocks said, "I know of a cottage.
I know of a cottage.
That's where I'm going for lunch."
That's where I'm going for lunch.
And off she went. Snow White said, "Wow." She said, "Wow, the people sure are strange here." She went to another, kept walking, and found another girl that almost ran right into her. She said, "Oh, excuse me." She said, "I'm Snow White,
I'm Snow White.
and I am so lost."
I'm so lost.
And the girl said, "I'm Cinderella.
I'm Cinderella.
Have you seen any princes running around here?
Have you seen any princesses around?
Or any shoes?" And Snow White said, "No, I haven't."
Oh, I haven't.
And Cinderella said, "Good,
Good.
you haven't seen me."
You haven't seen
And she ran off. Well, then she finally thought she found the cottage. It had a long bell rope attached to it, and so she pulled it. And the girl said, "Ow!" And Snow White said, "I'm sorry. I thought it was a bell rope." And the girl said, "No, that's my hair.
No, that's my hair.
I'm Rapunzel.
I'm
I'm
Rapunzel.
stuck in this tower.
I'm stuck in this tower.
Can you help me down?"
Can you help me down?
And Snow White said, "I'm afraid I can't.
I'm afraid I can't.
I'm sorry." And Rapunzel said, "That's okay."
That's okay.
And she went back inside her tower. Well, Snow White was just getting so sad. She had nowhere to go, nowhere to be, and she sat down and started crying. Well, tears in fairy tales are very powerful, so just then, a bunch of magical forest animals, there were bunnies and bears and butterflies, and they all heard her crying, and they all came and sat behind her. And they said, "What's the problem? What's the problem?" And she said, "I'm Snow White.
I'm Snow White.
I have no place to go."
I have no place to go.
And they said, "We know a place you can stay.
We know a place you can stay.
Follow us."
Oh.
And so they stood up and they just kind of walked around and magically appeared at the dwarfette's house. And they came right over here. "Come over here, Snow White." And she knocked on the door. And the door just kind of opened. So they went in and they looked up and they looked down, they looked all around, and it was a mess. There were 11 tiny beds, there were little dirty dishes, there was just a little TV left on, and there was trash everywhere. Oh, it was a mess. So they did what they knew how to do. They started cleaning. They swept the floors, they washed the dishes, they made the beds and did the laundry. And pretty soon it was sparkling clean. And the animal said, "We have to go home now.
We have to go home now."
And Snow White said, "Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye."
Bye.
And the animal said, "Bye-bye." And they all went home. Well, after all that cleaning, Snow White got so sleepy, so she decided to take a nap on the 11 tiny beds. Well, meanwhile, back at the castle, the queen had come up with an evil plan. The queen came out. And she had her cauldron, and she was stirring it up. And just then the doorbell rang. Ding dong! And in entered her four best friends, Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty, Ursula the Sea Witch, Cruella de Vil, and the Wicked Witch of the West. And in they came, and she said, "Thanks for coming, girls."
Thanks for coming, girls.
And they said, "No problem."
No problem.
And one by one, they each handed her an item for her potion. Cruella de Vil said, "Here, tail of an evil dog." And Ursula the Sea Witch said, "Here's a scale from a mean fish."
Here's a scale from a mean fish.
And the Wicked Witch of the West said, "Here's the tail of a flying monkey."
Here's the tail of a flying monkey.
And Maleficent said, "Here's the tooth of a dragon." Here's the tooth of a dragon. And she put them all in the cauldron. She stirred it up and she said, "Thanks, girls."
Thanks, girls.
And they said, "Don't sweat it, sweetie."
Don't sweat it, sweetie.
And they went back home. So she stirred the potion, and it started to smoke, and then pillars of smoke came up, and bing, bang, boom, ha, 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 she magically transformed into an old beggar woman. The old beggar woman took an apple, dipped it into the potion, and said, "This will fix Snow White."
This will fix Snow White.
And she let out an evil laugh. And she went back to her dungeon. Well, meanwhile, back at the home of the Dwarfettes, in they were coming from home for lunch. Hi, hi,
Hi, hi.